Today, I want to talk about the summary response paper that you'll be writing for Paper Towns and several other novels throughout the course of the semester. I want to begin with kind of a quick overview, and then I want to talk about Paper Towns and give you some things to think about and perhaps some specifics from that novel as you think about writing the summary response paper. The summary response paper for as a basic paper is just what it says. You summarize the novel's plot, and then you respond to what you think are the important things in the novel. So as you go through, the step-by-steps are fairly simple. The summary should state the author's name and the novel's title in the opening sentence or very shortly thereafter. Please don't go from what's called bed to bed writing. Don't try to cover everything that happened to every character in the summary. Take the biggest events. More than likely, it'll be easier to list them in chronological order, and that's it. This is a summary. It's not a retelling. It is just a summary. In the summary, you should be objective. You can evaluate things later. Accurately and concisely explain the novel's plot. Accurately and concisely describe the characters. That's about it. And number 4 is key. If you're writing a 3-page paper, the summary should be 1 page. If you're writing a 2-page paper, the summary should be 2/3 of a page. 1/3 of the paper is summary, 2/3 is response. When you get to the response, have a thesis statement that indicates your attitude towards the novel. The body of the response should support the thesis statement, just like the body of every paper should support the thesis statement. Don't rewrite the plot summary. That was up in the summary. You state your reasons for liking, disliking, appreciating the novel, whatever it is. You may want to discuss the novel's theme, the characterization. You may want to discuss the lit theory. You may want to discuss whether the novel does a good job as a detective novel or a fantasy novel or some other sort of thing. You may discuss that this is or is not a young adult novel or not a good example of adolescent literature. Number 4, I understand that this response is going to, for the most part, be your personal beliefs. However, simply saying this book sucks doesn't give me any reason to agree with you that this book sucks. Provide some facts, provide some logic, lead the reader to the inescapable conclusion that the book does indeed suck. If you can't logically back it up with concrete details from the book, then move on to something else. Use author tags to help identify the thoughts of the novel's author. The tag would be Smith writes, Jones illustrates, Smith asserts. Use the author's last name. Then you can use personal pronouns throughout, but always make sure you're indicating who the author is throughout the thing. Make sure there's quotation marks around direct quotations, and then end your response with a strong concluding sentence. Restate the topic sentence. Bring all of your thoughts together. Again, most of these should be in that 2 to 3 page range. About 1 page of summary, about 2 pages of response. Let's go now to considering paper towns in specific. First sentence of the summary. Have the novel's title and author, Paper Towns by John Green, and then say something about it. Second and third sentence, you introduce the key characters, Q, Margot, Ben, and Radar, and then you probably conclude with a list of the dead body in the park, a night of revenge, the series of clues, and then finally the road trip. Paragraph 2 should go through the prologue and the important part of part 1, the strings. Paragraph 3 should take care of the pseudo divisions, the prom, the clues, the road trip. And again, you're looking at about a page for that. And then the response should be, what do you think about the novel? If you get stuck, I think there are some things you can look at. How accurate is this novel? Are Ben and Margot too much? Are the parents too stereotypical? Is high school accurately depicted? As I said in class, all of you were high school students much more recently than I was. I can barely remember high school existing. Provide concrete details from both your life and the novel to support what you think about these things. I made a joke in one of the presentations about first world problems, but I think that's a fair point. Is this novel too concerned with first world problems? That's an evaluation you can make. Does the road trip help or hurt the novel? And again, give some reasons for that. I think that's a valid evaluation. Look, everybody that I have read says that the beginning of Huckleberry Finn is a great American novel, and once Tom Sawyer shows up, it becomes a pretty crappy novel. All right, and again, that's an evaluation. Is the road trip enough a good thing? Well, fine. If the road trip detracts from the novel, how badly does it hurt the novel? Playing more with more lit terms. What's Q's epiphany? Is it worth 305 pages to get to that? Does the novel become too sentimental? Just pick 3 or 4 passages and say that they're insightful, banal, and explain how and why. Does Green use Guthrie's songs and Whitman's Leaf of Grass, Melville's Moby Dick, the quotation about mirrors and lamps, or mirrors and windows? Does he use those things well? I made a big deal about the strings and that I thought it detracted because he was shifting definitions. Paper towns shift a little bit. Does that add or detract? All of those things can be part of the response. The key is if you are going to um, write about that response, make sure that your thesis write about 2 things in the response or 3 things in the response, excuse me. You're going to write about 2 or 3 things in that response. The most important thing to do is have your thesis cover those 2 or 3 things, and then have each of the body paragraphs in the order of your thesis cover those, and then tie it all together at the end. Those of you in class tomorrow, we're going to go over this in class. Those of you who are watching it on video, you'll have a chance to ask questions the next class period. But all in all, remember that 4 or 5 of the essays are going to be the summary response. So please make sure that you get that part down first, and then we'll move on from there. Have a good rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you all in class.